Between the last episode and this episode, I got a new recording device. Unfortunately, it's only recorded 6 minutes at the start and did not record anything after that. But fortunately, I have a backup recording that I've used a different recording device. Unfortunately, the quality is extremely low, but nevertheless, it should still do the job. So right, we're back, and last time we set this editor up so the scene could load in all these objects and whatever the scene has inside it at the present time. But we have no way to edit the properties within these elements, such as the render properties and the scale, the position, the rotation, etc. And we also want to make it customizable so we can edit it in this window and be able to load it back into the... We also need to make it savable so we can load it back into the scene when we're done. And what we need to do first is we're just going to go through the properties, which is not currently open. So let's open it in the core properties interface. So in this we need to set a new function. We'll just copy this function, and it's going to need a called series get serializable and set serializable. And obviously, if they're not in when you extend it, we need to add it to the extension. So get serializable, and we want to do the set. So that's the first thing, which is now done. And we might actually want to test this, and this actually does need to have something in it. So the get needs to return a blank object, which is denoted by the braces. The set just needs to take in a serial data, and I'm going to do nothing with it. Not here, at least. So if we go into one of our game data, so we're doing the properties, and go into control, and we just want to extend one of these properties, which is the get serializable, and I'm going to set it up exactly the same. And now we need to set up what is actually going to be inside this. So I'm going to set speed to an object, and this object's got to take in a type, which will be just a number. The value is going to be 50, and that should do. Or we can do a label as well. We're going to give it a tag, and we can just put this to speed. So that's just going to represent what's going to pop up in the editor window. I'm using a new microphone, so hopefully the sound is either better or better quality. So now we've got the get serializable function. Now we need to go back into this scene editor and wherever the parse scene was. Then we need to look at the actor. We set it to a button, but we didn't do anything when we clicked it. So we need to now set attribute on click. And we're going to do setup, not setup, parse scene set editable data. And in this we need to pass in two properties, which is going to be the layer, so that's just going to be the I value, comma, and the actor ID, which was just the J value. If we come down here, we can do and actually set up this value, this function. And then both IDs, so we can put the tag for the IDs in. And if this is a list, we need to put a comma. So one thing we did last time was I made the same bars next to the index HTML. Then we can look for the tag that we need to use, which was is this the game? Or that's the game. We need the actual editor, scene editor job. Which is a bit further down. So the serialized elements, and we've just got to access this object, the HTML tag. So first of all, we'll set it to nothing. So HTML is nothing. Now we need to access what's actually in this actor. So I'm going to go let property list equal property a div, so that's going to set up just somewhere we can store data temporarily. Then what we need to do is we need to go for let I equals 0 and I is less than. We need to just remember how we access the scene. For scene layers actors.length. Not actors.length. We know which actor we're using, so it's actor ID and layer ID. and we're just going for all the properties. Which you would see if you look in the actors, just to make sure it's not in game data, it's in game core, and it's actor properties. And obviously the I++ at the end. And this will, hopefully, we've got to make our own containers. So the container is going to be for the property itself. So that's going to be a new property. And at the end of this, we need to add the container to the property list. To list dot append child, and just append the container. And if we wanted to, we can also just add a quick property header, which can just be a H4, and we can just set the properties of this to inner HTML equals properties. Append child, and that's just going to be head. So that should draw the header for the properties. At some point we might do the actor data here, but right now we're just going to do the properties because that's going to be the serialized, and we're just going to do it just for the properties right now. So now we've got the container, we need the actual properties themselves, which means we're going to want another div essentially for each property. So we know how many properties there are, and we know which property we're on, because that's denoted by I, and we can also do active property and just make it to this with the indexed element here. So we can just access that the property without having to write in the whole thing. And alright, so the active property is going to be one of the new things that we did on this control. So it's going to have this control data, an instance of this control data, and it's going to have this because the control has this get serializable, we can actually go and grab that and grab all the data from it. So to do this, we need to go and get the active property dot get serializable, and that will return us a serialized data. Because it's serialized, we can now do the list serialize, which is just going to look like object dot entries, and then pass the serialized data into it, and that should give us a list. And for now, we're just going to console.log what this list is. and you might be one of the things that's going to be slightly annoying about this engine is the list isn't going to be in order, at least right now. Cannot set properties of inner HTML to null. So this is on line 30. And that's because I need to put a hashtag in front of it again. Just load it, and so we can see it's being written out, but it's obviously not drawn in because we haven't done the drawing function yet. So we can see speed, and it says the interesting. That did not appear how I imagined it would appear. So if I did another one, which would be something like, we haven't got anything but rotation. Number, rotation. You need to put the comma in. And it's got two arrays. Okay, so it must put the property in the first one and the data in the second one, which is fine. Can access it. So got that get serializable, and we've got to here, and everything's working as expected. So now we can go for let j equals 0, j is less than this serializable dot length j plus plus. To access it, looks like you could put in a 0 first, which is what we need to do. So we need to create an object because we've got the container for this level. And I'll just copy this because I didn't going to append child, and that child will be property attributes. I can just put that in there. So now the div has been created, and what we've got to do with this div would be to take this information, this list information, which is this, take the label, which is the tag, which we can do by taking j 0 j.1 dot tag, and that's just going to be interested in HTML right now. So it's been added to the container's been added to the property, but we haven't added anything to this yet. So at the end, I just want to append child, and I'm going to append the property list. And there you can see properties have been added, as well as speed and rotation. So we know that this will be in a sound container. We are also going to add in the dot, and there we've got to make a new function. We've got to make a new function to parse if it's a number or whether it's a string or whatever it is. We need to be able to get the right graphical user side of it. We need to understand which number it we need to understand which type of serializable information it is, so that we can set up the screen so the user can actually interact with the specific type. So we're going to put the get serialized raw, and we're going to set it to a function, and then we're going to put type in the actual parameter, and this type is, we can just put a switch statement, and from there we can just do a case number, so we can, because type is going to always be a string, so we can go to lowercase, which just basically means that as long as you put lowercase in here, it shouldn't matter how you type the word number. We can put a break after it so it doesn't do anything else, and we can just return number, and we can just go let in or I'm going to put this outside because I think, because of how it works, how JavaScript interprets scopes, that if we was to put another case string underneath it, and that's got to have a text box too, it would conflict because we have two statements with input on. So it's declaring the same information within the same scope, and it would be annoyed with it. Let me just type in input, so we don't even need to do that here. We type it here, and we're going to return input. That's just a placeholder. So we return input, and we don't really need a break, but I'm going to keep it there. So input dot set attribute type, and this is going to be number. You can also put in the value as well, just so it knows if it comes into here, we know we've got to handle the value too, rather than trying to handle it out here every time. And the value changes with the whatever information, so we need to put the value as a parameter. So here we can just get draw, and we can put in the type. Value. Let draw equal this. So now we have the information. We're just going to append it to the property attribute. So append child, and let's just grab the draw and append it. So now when we send it over, we should get the property with 50 and with 10 in, and that would represent the information in there, but we don't have a way of, if we update it, there is nothing to actually make it do anything on the screen. So we need to add that information into it. So we can make a function in here after serialize. And to do this, we're going to do the input here. We're going to just do set attribute as we've done. And this time we're going to put on change. We are just going to go and do the whole parsing dot after serialize. And that should be calling this now. When we change something, it should call this. So when we do this, we need to make sure we access the right layer and the right actor. So let's just make the currently editing equals or comma parameter, and I can put a comma in. And we can just type in layer, and from there we can type it in -1, and we can put actor -1. And we're just going to set this up here. So layer equals layer ID, and we need to put this in front of it. Now we need to do the second one, which is actor ID, and just put the actor. Still won't do anything. And I didn't console log anything, so it shouldn't pop there, and there's no mistakes. So once we've done the serialization, we need to actually set the serialization, which is something we've also haven't implemented in here yet. So we've got this get, but we haven't got the set. So set the data, and I'm just going to be returning this object essentially. So just grab the object and think about how you would set it up. So with this dot speed equals serial data dot speed. property dot value, and that's all we need to do because it's just a number. So I think we're also going to do the property ID, and we're also going to give it the list ID as well. Actually, no. Because I'm doing this on the fly, I've got to think about it. So I might call it for now and come back when I can think of a solution. Right now I'm thinking that because we've got all the information, we can just go and loop through all of it and set all the values and then redraw the screen, but there might be a better way to do it. And this actually wouldn't be this, it would just be this stop speed. So it would update every time you changed it as well. So so after you've done the serialization, it would so I'm thinking you take some of this information, this code, and I'm just going to have a look down here. So obviously we don't need to do any of this. Well, we need this, but we don't need things like the container. And then we're just going to try and reconstruct each of these list serializables based on the information that's stored in the draw. So we've got get serialization draw, and we might want another function which is to get the data rather than actually getting the draw itself. So reverse engineers the draw. Because we've appended this draw to it, we should be able to get this without much hassle. Or we might be able to add a type in here, so it's an ID essentially, and we can just recall the ID. If we recall the ID, we can just so yeah, we might do that. Just set attribute ID, and then we're going to put property draw ID. So now we're going to take two values. One is going to be the property ID itself, which is just I, and then we can use J as the next property, and I'm going to denote it with a dash. So we might not need, we will need this in a second. So this is being added onto the end of this. So this is just literally what's been returned from here. So we can send in the element into here. When we get the element, we need to get the data and return it. So in this case, we're going to just take the element get attribute and value. Can send in type as well. So we'll just return this. So every time we need to add in a new layer, we'll just add it into this for now. A new drawer, we'll just add into the, so you need to update the, every time you add something new, we'll just extend it. Drawer, we just need to get the attribute, which we can just put in this information here with the star at the start. So this I should be the same and the J should be the same. And we have no active. And instead of using actor ID, just going to set this and reverse it. So if we get the serializable data, do we need to use length J? So providing nothing changes with the serializable, we can just draw data, draw value, property attribute, obviously not appending anything. Check everything's done. Yes. We get the element, but we haven't got the type, which was just when we set it, it would just be this. Because it's the same code, we can just paste it. And the serializable. We don't need any of the attributes, and we don't need to do this. And that just makes it easier. So now we've got the value, we just need to set the value into the serializable data, because this is still in the data form, we can set it zero. Then we can do dot value equals data draw value as far as I'm concerned, that should work. Syntax error after argument 107. I missed one of these. Take that off. No, it should work. Just because I had an extra quotation mark in. And now if I go and we got it from layer 2, so we can just do core.scene layers 2 dot actors 0 dot properties 0 speed, and that's still 50 because all we've done is set the serialized data to the right thing. So once this is done, what we actually want to do is where we've got active property, we've got serialization, we need to just do the opposite. So set serialization and we'll put it to serialized data. And it should be passing back now all this information that we changed. Change it to 61. Right now it's 51 still. So let's just check that console. Serial and then put serialized data below it. So serial, and now we should see the speed should be different. Curious. Draw value, we can have a look at the draw value. So it's still 50. Okay. And it's saying 10. So what seems to be happening is when it's doing this list entries, it's jumbling up what the entry's saying. At least that's what I think it's doing right now. So I've got this 0. don't know why this is freaking out. Okay. And that's 001. Zero is just their property name, so that should be speed, or as far as I'm concerned, that's the property that I'm changing. Which I set on the 109, so 109 to speed. See what this is actually holding, because it might be another way, which if it is, I'm not quite sure how I do it right now, so I'm going to just need to keep moving this up. And just check which line that I'm printing this on is 109 still, so 109 is 10. Change 10. There's something acting strange, so what I'm going to do first is just get rid of some of the extra things. Yes, I'm only dealing with one. Still changing it just to 50, which means I don't know what's going on. Type should be still right, so property number 50, still 50. It's not 50. Next, I put in the So if I change this to 60, would this change anything here? So it changes to 60. Okay, this is baffling. So it does look like it's changing, but for some reason, when you change this, it doesn't update it. Could be the browser. Or I could have made a mistake somewhere. I mean, I've got attribute value. I could just put dot value. Maybe that's what it's being stored in rather than the actual attribute itself. Maybe that just stores the default value. Yes, that's exactly what was going on. So if I look in the speed value, it is now 66 because this says 66, so that one must be 66. Right, so now we've got a way of serializing different values. That's and very easily we can duplicate this now. So this does properties, and now we need to do user interface, and we can get rid of this, and it just needs to be done prior to anything else. So property list, change property list to UI list, and UI header, you'll see why I want to do this in a second. So what I want to do, property drawers, I want to do user interface, now I want to go down into here, and I also want to do the same thing. So these properties, make sure the same value is, we want to do user interface. These are the same, we need to change this to user interface as actor. Make sure this everything's correct. So just make sure we're overwriting the correct information. Now if we refresh it, we should be able to get the same things, but and obviously we're going to get this problem because property interface has these two. The user interface does not. So we need to just go and make an amendment. We'll just save it now and we should be all good. Vector is not defined. Cool. Try refreshing that again. User interface is not defined. Okay, something's just broken. And it seems to be temperamental. So we're just going to be very careful about what's actually a problem and what we're working on, what is the problem with what we're working on, rather than what is just the problem in general. So let's go to the rectangle, because I'm pretty sure both of these share it. So we go back to the control, we can get the serializable structure, and we can just set it so we can see what's going on. So in this case, we wanted to do size X, and we can give it a size X, and we can do size X equals size X value. Can obviously do multiple as well, so size Y. So now these are all set up, and we need to do, actually it's not set up, it needs the size dot X and size dot Y. So when it works it out, you can work it out from the actual values. And the probably changes up a lot. You can get rid of some of the. Did that do anything? So 500, which shouldn't be doing it on draw yet. So now we've got it to do a lot of console.logs, so we might just go through quickly and move on. So we can actually use the console window if we need to debug something, rather than having to filter out every single thing. So I think on scene we did parse scene, so load actor lists, editor loader, scene.only draw. We might just borrow that for the bottom of this. So after we've done the serializing, we're just going to do only draw. I want to check the scene to only draw, because I want to make sure it does clear before it does the only draw. Just have clear first, just to make sure we don't get any bleeding across time, essentially. Like that. wait until we get not report to begin path of cause 38. So no idea what triggered that. Of course. Oh, okay, so you couldn't do that. Let's just have a look on clear then. So cursor.clear, obviously that's why it's breaking, and we don't want to draw it either, so we'll just stick this at the start, and then we just go and make sure everything loads before we can do anything. We need to figure out a way to make sure everything loads every single time. Our scene, so that should draw it. If we click actor 1, nothing's changed. If I change it to 200, nothing's changed, which, okay. Not sure if that's size changed it to oh, okay, so that's why. If we go into the render rectangle, we set this up wrong. So this dot size, it should be this dot size dot x, and this dot size dot y. I was wondering why I was seeing the data, but it wasn't actually updating because I typed it in wrong. So everything loaded. Draw. Get the actors. Nothing's changed. Type in 200, and then it's changed to 200. So now we have a way of editing user data without actually changing anything. So it doesn't actually do anything yet. And next time we'll work on the saving system, so we can actually save all this data into these objects. So when we bring it into the game, it actually loads the scene as the scene is in the editor.